one thing I also love doing is like in sharing on my social media, like I love sharing like my behind the scenes. So that way they could see the amount of work that goes into the photo or that goes into the video. Because sometimes they don't really fully understand that. They just think like, oh, here's a plate, we'll take a photo and there's that. And then for stop motion, they just see, oh, it's a 5 second clip. That's it. That's 5 seconds done. That shouldn't take 2 days or 3 hours. That's gonna
Yeah.
take 10 seconds. But no, by showing them like a time
Yes.
lapse of like, okay, here's everything that we need to go ahead and set up. So we need to put this here, move this, take a photo, move it again, take a photo. So it kind of allows them to see like, okay, so this is where my money is being invested. It's not just, I want you to give me this product. It's like, okay, I could see them spending that time to make these things so they look perfect, so they have the right amount of angle or the right amount of spin to them when they're moving around. And it also helps you or helps your clients gain trust in you just because they see like, okay, they're just putting the amount of work into this one.
This is your host, Dyutama, but you can call me DJ. And I love to inspire food photographers to dream. I spent 15 years as an architect studying buildings and constructing hospitals before taking the biggest leap of faith of my life, which was setting up a food styling and food photography business right from scratch. If you're a dreamer like me, wanting to start a new photography business or grow your existing food photography business, jump right into a world where I share practical, actionable strategies to improve your photography skills, to work with clients, make more money, all with a fearless mindset. This is the My Food Lens podcast, and we take you one step closer to your dreams. So let's go. Today, my guest is Sean Misa, and he's a food and product photographer based in Seattle, Washington. Now, Sean, he is a master at stop motion videos, and not just any stop motion videos. These are these special stop motion videos called pop art. These are these popping, bold, colorful, high energy stop motion videos and photographs. And he is an expert at it. Today, he's going to come and tell us all about how to create these stop motion videos and photos, but he's also going to tell us how to market yourself as a videographer or as a photographer in the market, especially if you have a very strong style. And I think that at the end of this conversation, this will also leave you with a lot of good information about how to explore more skills, more styles to be able to reach more clients and basically bring more money into your business. All right. So are you all popped up for this pop art conversation with Sean? With that, let's welcome him. Hi, Sean, and welcome to My Food Lens podcast. You know, I heard your presentation at the Food Photography Summit this year, which was all about stop motion. And I was like, wow, who's this guy? And you do it so brilliantly because you do it in this very bold style, in this very quirky style. It's really like in your face. It's so catchy. And I was like, wow, we need to talk to him because I'm pretty sure that our audience would love to know about this style that you explore, which is called pop art. I think it'll open such a new way, a new style for our listeners to explore, not just to hone their skills, but also as a new way to approach clients and maybe find new opportunities in the market. So I'm excited to get started on our conversation with that. But Sean, before we get into all the good stuff, can you just tell our audience, like, just give us a brief introduction of yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Sean Misa, and I am a food photographer and videographer based in the Seattle area. And I also run the Misa Hungry Media.
Wonderful, amazing. Seattle is so beautiful. I'm so jealous. We live in sunny, yes, we live in sunny Singapore, and anyway, I know that we're going to get into all the bold and the fun and the quirky stuff about pop art, but I just want to start with something light and easy. So Sean, can you just tell our audience a little bit about yourself, a bit fun that we may not know?
Yeah, so actually, prior to being a food photographer, I was a graphic designer, and that kind of lends into the reason why I love these bold and bright colors and really dynamic styles. And then after that, I was a cinematic wedding videographer. And now for about what 3+ years, I've been doing food photography, and I'm enjoying that one a lot more.
Wow. So clearly you come from a world of art and you come from a world that is very embedded into proportion and aesthetics and harmony and balance and colors. And that's why you have such a great eye. And I used to be an architect. So I definitely resonate with your very like strong use of geometry and your lines and all of those proportions that I see in your work. I think that really resonates with me as well. So tell me, Sean, so you've been into this for like 3 years now, but I did read that, photography has been a part of your life for almost a decade now. So tell us how you got into food and product photography.
Yeah, so I have been doing photography for a little over a decade now, and that's been doing things from like real estate photography, corporate photography, and videography, and then of course like the wedding cinematography. But yeah, so I just been into this field for such a long time. But in terms of like getting into the food and product photography, it was actually during the pandemic, and it was during the whole lockdown period. I was actually doing wedding videography before, and of course, since everything was under lockdown, weddings were canceled, delayed to the next year, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
um, I was part of like this photography forum because I was wanting to, do something creative and have some fun and still trying to connect with other people. And then while we were over there, they're like, "Oh, hey, why don't we try food photography for this challenge?" So I'm like, "Okay, we'll go ahead and try that one." And
Okay.
so they listed a whole bunch of different techniques that we could try, and they also listed a few YouTube videos, and of course, one of them being Joni Simon.
Aha.
So of course, like that's how everybody else gets started, right? So yeah, I just watched a couple of her videos and I just was like, wow, this is actually cool. This is a lot of fun. I'll go ahead and give it a try. So I did that one. I took a whole bunch of photos, and then every day for about 90 or over 90 days, I was taking photos and posting them on Instagram.
Wow.
And it was like a lot of fun. I learned a lot from posting
Food.
those
And you were
photos,
taking
taking
food photos. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. So I was
Wow.
just taking
Wow.
all sorts of different food photos. Like I would go ahead and cook, or sometimes my wife would cook, bake, doing pretty much all sorts of different things. Because I couldn't really go to the store to buy pre-made food because I don't remember if they actually had that during that time. But yeah, so I know I would try and do stuff myself, and then I would style it to the best I could. Because also before I did all this creative stuff, I worked in the restaurant industry, and I was actually working at a fine dining restaurant. And so while I was over there,
Hmm.
I got to go ahead and speak with the chefs, talk to them, seeing how they plate things. And I just loved how they
Yeah.
styled them. And that's really
Wow.
what got me started with like how to get the plates looking nice and how to make the food look good, not just like, here's the food. Does it taste good? Does it look good as well? So that whole presentation, I just love doing that one. And
Yeah.
before this whole thing, I still did like plating my food. Whenever I cooked, I would plate them really nicely. I try to do my best to make it look cool. And so now it's just like, and now I'm learning the photo side of it and being able to capture all that stuff.
Hmm. This is the perfect combination. I mean, I would say that's the most fun thing about you, But really, I mean, to have that food knowledge, that is such a huge part of being a food photographer, just having a simple idea of how to put things on a plate. Of course, when you plate it for a customer versus when you plate it for the camera, it's 100% different, but you know how food behaves. You know what will go down, what will stay up, what will become brown, what will stay green, all of those things. So that is such great knowledge to bring with you, your love for photography, your background in graphic design, and then your experience in restaurant, in the restaurant world. It's so perfectly like put together. It's as if the universe just conspired for you to, okay, there you go. Do you think
Yeah,
so?
that's
Do
the
you
recipe for
feel that
me.
way?
Yeah, so like a little bit of
Yeah.
this, a little bit of that, sprinkle this, and there you go. You got Sean Misa.
Fantastic. And, whenever we have a conversation with someone, there is no way that Joni's name doesn't come up. It's like everyone has gone through her education process as well. She's such a great resource. But tell me, Sean, like I'm sure for you, like you had a whole list of clients from your wedding photography era, and suddenly you are into this new world and the clientele is completely different. So how did you start out? How did you find clients, or how did you market yourself?
Yeah, so when I was posting all my photos on Instagram, my Instagram account grew. So like at first I posted it on my personal Instagram account, and then I saw that one like growing numbers, people just like were liking them and following my account. And then after that, I was like, you know what, I'll go ahead and move it over, create a new account dedicated to just food photography. So I did that one and just continued it on from there. And from there, it just grew really fast. And I was grabbing attention from other people. So one of my first clients actually found me through Instagram, and they reached out to me asking me if I'd be willing to go ahead and take some photos of their products. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll go ahead and try it out. And then that's kind of what got me started with like reaching out and working out with some of the brands. So I started working with them through DMs. They would DM me, and then I would say, sure, go ahead, send me your products. Because it was like, it was the perfect way to go ahead and get that done. Because, you know, during the whole pandemic, we weren't able to go anywhere. They weren't able to get people into their place. So they would just send me the stuff and I could just work from home, which I was like, oh, this is perfect. I love this. I don't have to go anywhere. I just set up my table, my little settings, and take my food photos over there.
Yeah. Wow.
And then after that, I also reached out to other job posting sites, like the H Hub was one of them that I tried out at first. And then one of my first clients from there was a beef jerky company. And they sent me about 20 pounds of beef jerky and nuts. And I was like, oh, that's a lot. And I had no idea what to do after. Like after the photos, like the photos looked amazing. And at the time I was actually living in Chicago, and all of my family is like here in Washington and Seattle and California. So I was just like, I don't know what I'm going to do with all this beef jerky. I have nobody to give it to. So I'm just like, okay, I'll send it over to them. So I just mailed a whole box full to my family and friends. And just like, oh.
Oh, wow. All right, Sean, for me, definitely like you, first of all, you put yourself out there and you were on Instagram, you were on social media, you were telling the world that, hey, here's my new identity. Here I am as a food photographer, product photographer. Come look at my work. This is my portfolio. And that's how you got some clients. And then you also made the effort of reaching out to people. So, like when you mentioned about the beef jerky company, did they also pay for the photos, or was it a product in exchange kind of an arrangement? What was it?
Yeah, so for my first one and even through the one on the H Hub, those ones were paid gigs. So they did pay me for them, which was really nice. I was like, okay. And they asked me how much would you charge? I'm like, I don't know. How does this sound? So I had no idea like where to gauge my numbers from. So I'm just kind of basing it off of my experience and what I thought might be a reasonable rate. And now looking back at it, like it was a good starting rate, but I definitely could have charged more.
Yeah, but I'll just laugh that you did charge. I mean, it was new territory for you. It was probably a good brand to work with. And you didn't just settle for 10,000 kilos of beef jerky. You were like, no, you need to pay for my services. And whether it's small or big, that doesn't matter. But the point was that even when you're starting out, you did have a fee and a rate, and you asked for, to be paid for services. I absolutely love that. That is such great practice. And I think our audience definitely, it's a learning for them as well. So tell me how you've created this very signature style of yours. Like when people look at your work, it really stands out and it has a very distinct quality to it. And in fact, I've seen that work before, but I did not know that it's called pop art. I saw that and I read that on your website. So it's definitely one of the styles that is very, very trending right now. But are there other styles that you feel are, very popular with clients right now, apart from this particular one?
Yeah, so some of the other styles that I've seen kind of trending, of course, with like the pop art, the bold colors, sharp shadows. A lot of them were like videos. So of course, with TikTok being a popular thing and Reels trying to catch up to that one, trying to create something visual and eye-catching with motion. So videos is another one. But then within the videos, there's also the stop motion, which is different because like it has a different look than a traditional video. It's not quite as smooth looking as a video. It has this fun, almost nostalgic look to it. And with that one, it just grabs the attention a little bit more just because like, oh, hey, there's not just like a hand grabbing the food and moving across. This plate of food is just like moving by itself. And now the food is like disappearing. So it has this fun, unique look to it that really grabs the viewer's attention.
And do you think that it's like really popular? Like, would you say stop motion is like really popular with clients, or really, where do you see it being more popular, social media or with clients?
With this one, I think more so with social media. And my clients have been reaching out to me, and then slowly I've been actually getting more and more requests for stop motion versus traditional video.
Right.
I guess because they like the looks of it. It's a fun look, and not that many people do it. So I think that's also what helps lead or put me ahead of others.
And I think stop motion also has a strong sense of composition because every
Mm.
single, the way the things move or the lines that are created or the direction or the movement that we create within the stop motion, it needs to be so precise because every photo, literally adds to that movement. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about pop art? Because I'm sure that just like me, many others are also hearing this style for the first time, these words for the first time. So can you just describe what is pop art?
Yeah, so pop art is bold colors. It's not just like your dark grays and blacks. These are bright, bold blues, greens, yellows, oranges, purples. They're very colorful. They could be monochromatic or contrasting colors. They also have strong shadows and not like this soft diffuse look. The soft diffuse look looks beautiful, but like having
Mm,
these lines of dark, deep shadows, creating more just like direction, or following the shadow into another area. So you can have these shadows act as like arrows pointing towards something else or creating a frame within that. So it's just capturing
mhm.
the viewer's attention. And this is what, like, when brands want to seem like they're a bold brand, they want to stand out. They don't want to just be caught up in the crowd of the other people.
Yeah, so we create a lot like that for our clients here in Singapore. We've just not called it pop art ever. Now I'm going to call it pop art. But I think what's like the key characteristics of this is basically harsh light. Is that right? And then
Yes.
very strong colors and a very strong sense of sharp geometry. Is that right? The three big
Yes.
big components.
Yeah, that's correct.
Right. Okay. And I actually do feel that a lot of brands, especially I see that in the Asian market, they have really moved to this style. So I shoot for this particular company and they have 7 brands under them. And when we started shooting, I shoot for all 7 and there's 7 different styles.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, and so when we started off, there was only one of the brands that was of this nature, of the pop art style. I know it's pop art. So, but it was only one. And now, like 4 years later, we have more than half of the brands have kind of transitioned to that style almost. So I can definitely see we still have it's still very distinct in the colors, the textures, and the way we style the food. It still stands out, but they are kind of in a similar category. So I can definitely see that they are very popular. How do you feel? How's the market or the clients? What do you see the trend with the clients with this kind of style?
Yeah, they're really loving that style, and a lot of them are requesting that just because, like what I mentioned before, it stands out. It grabs the viewer's attention. It doesn't just look like a regular scene that people could see every day. So this
Mhm.
one, it stands out just because these ones are usually also very minimalistic in a way because they're just a bright, bold background, a few props here and there, and then it centers the food. And it's nice because like the food, because it looks so different, it's not like these plain strong colors. There's different colors, different textures into there. It helps it pop out a little bit more.
Yes. And so when we look at just, which one is more popular with clients, you said stop motion is definitely more popular on social media.
Mhm.
Um, I know that videos are definitely where the world is heading, and a lot of clients now request that. Why do you think do you think clients still be even if they're opting for pop art, they would much rather go for still photos versus stop motion pop art,
Mhm.
or traditional style videos? Which one is the direction clients usually opt for?
Well, I think photos are definitely not going to go away. I don't think there's ever going to be a time when photos are just completely gone. It's because there's a lot of things like print. With print, you can't have motion in there. You can't have a video or stop motion because they're solid, they're static. And also just like going even through websites, I know that there are some regions where like maybe the internet might not be as fast. And so they need to prioritize having things that could load quicker. And photos are going to be loading a lot faster than videos or stop motion videos. So
Mhm.
those photos are still going to do really well. In terms of like videos themselves, like the traditional videos, those ones are, they're still working. Um, they're still standing out there, especially with like TikTok and Instagram Reels and YouTube out there. So those
Mhm.
ones are still going to do a really good job of grabbing your attention because they're also movement as opposed to a static image, especially when you're scrolling through. Because when you're scrolling through a feed, Instagram, having something that moves is going to catch your eye versus just like a regular still. Because a still image, you can capture what's going on with just like that. It's going to be super quick. You can get the idea like, okay, here's the plate of food and here's this. But when you have the plate of food and then a hand grabs in to like mess it up or throw something at it, it's just like, wait, what are they doing? It grabs
Yeah.
your attention. It's
Okay.
like, okay. And then of course the same thing with stop motion. It just moves by itself. It looks like, okay, there's a still image, but then it starts moving. The plate moves around, spins around, or ingredients will start flying onto the plate. It's like, oh, hey, what's going on here? What are they making? And then in terms of like which one is more popular, photos, I've been still be doing a lot of photos. A lot of people, a lot of clients are requesting for photos. But in terms of like the motion stuff, I think more of my clients have been asking for stop motion just because it is that different look. It has this nostalgic feel to it, especially because right now we are into that whole nostalgic want or desire. It's like, oh, hey, I want that because it reminds me of my childhood. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, as I feel like stop motion is timeless. And
yes.
it's also not limited to age. You can make it as fun, you can make it as artistic, you can make it as bold, you can make it as, dreamy, and it never goes out of style because, it's not something that came in and went away as a trend. Harsh light may or may not, that one we don't know. It's kind of like very trendy right now. But I feel like stop motion, no matter what light you use and whether it's pop art or not, but stop motion is definitely timeless. It has that evergreen quality to it. So why don't you give us a peek into your process, Sean? Because you've kind of developed such a signature style with this. Like, tell us, let's say you get a client project and they want you to create pop art stop motion videos or even pop art still photos. What is usually your process? So just give us a peek into, very briefly into what your gear or equipment is and how your thought process is, or maybe how you get inspired, or you are like choosing colors and then kind of just getting it up to the point where you can get your approval from your client. What's your process?
Yeah. So the first thing I do when I talk to my client, I really talk with them and kind of understand what are their goals for the project, and then who is their target audience. So that way I'm making sure that when I design these things, I design them that will attract that particular audience and also still ties in with their brand. And then in terms of like their goals, if their goals are to attract a viewer's attention or if their goals are to increase sales, I try to pay attention to that. So that way the storyline of the video or even the photo, is it going to tell the story of we're trying to grab your attention, come learn about us, or we're trying to grab your attention, but you should buy this product. This product is going to be perfect for your desires or what you're looking for. This is the flavor that you're wanting. This is desire. So I talk to them, I interview them, ask them a whole bunch of questions to find out all those specific details. And then after that, if it's a video, then I would create the storyboard for it just to kind of give them an idea of what I have in mind. Actually, no, sorry. Prior to that, I would work with them to create the mood board. So that way we can make sure that we have the right style. I would go ahead and insert a few photos or videos, and then they would do the same. Just like, okay, here's what I have in mind. Is this what you like? And then they would say, yes, I like this one, not so much that one. And here's some other ones to kind of show like what I'm talking about. Like, okay, so now we get onto the same page of what the style is.
Right.
And then from there, that's when I go ahead and create the storyboard. So if it's for a video, I kind of sketch out, okay, here's what we have for this first scene. And then this next scene, I have this one coming here. So that way I'm not spending time taking the video or the stop motion and then finding out, I didn't like that one at all. I want to go ahead and redo this whole thing. That just wastes a lot of time for both of us. So by doing it in the way of me interviewing them and then creating that storyboard, we're both on the same page. So that way we can get this project completed and they can go ahead and start posting it and sharing it with whoever. And then in terms of like with photos, it's kind of the same thing. I would sketch out a few ideas as well. So I just like, okay, here's what I have in mind. Here's your product. Here's some of the supporting props that I think would look really good with it. And they'd be like, okay, yeah, I like this one. The color, let's go ahead and swap it out for this. So I work with them to create those different things. In terms of like choosing the right color, I usually get inspired by the product itself. Just because I want a color that helps it either stand out by contrasting it, complementing it, something that way the food doesn't just blend into the background. So if the product is like a ketchup, I don't want to have, well, I guess you could do a red, but because that could look really cool too.
Yes.
But, I know
But yeah,
sometimes.
but basically you're trying to create the contrast, and just because we said it's a very bold style, you kind of want everything to kind of pop, 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 as
Yes,
individual elements. Yeah, yeah. Um,
exactly.
so what gear do you use, let's say, for your stop motion? Just a hint of maybe the light that you use and the camera or lens that you use.
Yeah, so the camera that I use is a Sony A7R4. The lens I would use is typically like a 24 to 70 millimeter.
Hmm.
Um, Sometimes I'll also use the 90 millimeter macro, which is really great, especially like for products that are a little
Wow.
bit smaller. I like the detail, the sharpness of it. In terms of the light, I have a aperture, the 300D Mark II. That one's really good. It's really bright. And the thing is, like with stop motion, you want to have a constant light because if you have a strobe or a
Hmm.
flash, the light could vary. Sometimes it might not be as strong from one frame to the other. So when you're watching it back, all of a sudden you see kind of this flicker look, and it's like, oh, okay, there's something a little bit wrong here. It doesn't look as
Mm.
smooth. So with the constant light, it's going to remain constant, same brightness from frame to frame. So
Right.
having a good, strong, constant light is definitely key for creating a good stop motion video.
Wow. Just like a regular video,
Yeah,
if you would.
exactly.
Wow. Okay. Okay. No, but it's good to know, because in a lot of our minds, we see stop motion as a collection of a lot of still photos. So
Mhm.
why not, right? Let's just use that. But this is great information. Yes, good to know. And how do you communicate your stop motion idea or the concept to the client? Like, do you sketch it out? I know that you do mood boards and you'll get your approvals on color palette and, big ideas, but the whole motion, you have like 10,000 photos that you're going to put together. Do you just sketch out, here's the first scene, here's the last scene? Or do you have a sequence that you would show them? Like, how do you get your approvals for that from them?
Yeah, so I would actually do the same thing. I would draw it out, and then if there was motion in there, I would kind of draw an arrow. So, like, let's say there's an
Mm.
apple over here, and I want it to
Hmm.
move over across here. Instead of just drawing like a straight arrow, or just like one frame is apple here, and the next frame the apple's down here, I kind of draw an arrow like, oh, it's gonna curve around here, or maybe
Yeah.
we'll do a little loop-de-loop and right over here at the bottom of the
Ah,
frame.
okay.
So that way the client understands, like, okay, so I see the apple moving across from here to here, and then from there the next scene, the apple gets cut into different slices and then it gets dipped into peanut butter. And then there you
Yeah.
go.
Oh, wow. And it's just simple drawing. It's just a hand-drawn sketch, or are you using any sophisticated tools to communicate this?
No, these ones are just a nice hand-drawn sketch. Well, I actually use my iPad, but I sketch
Yeah,
on
yeah,
there.
yeah. Oh, nice, nice. And you're a graphic designer, so clearly, I'm sure your sketches are way better than our doodling. So nice. All right. And what do you think, like when you see this kind of work on, social media, or you see other people creating this style, do you ever, you're like, oh, no, maybe, they could have done this a bit differently, or maybe something like that. Or you see big technical errors. Like, do you see any mistakes that creators make in, creating this kind of pop art photography or videos?
Yeah, I guess with the photography first, some of the things that I kind of see when they're trying to attempt this bright, bold pop art colors
Mm-hmm.
is maybe their saturation is not quite turned up as much. So it looks a little desaturated, looks almost flat.
Mm,
So sometimes I would just be like, yeah, I wish they would just increase the contrast just a little bit more.
yeah.
And then another one is like when they're using soft lighting or not hard enough lighting. So
Mm,
maybe they'll have
mm-hmm.
a single light source, but maybe it's too close, so it doesn't have as much of those nice crisp shadows, or it's maybe like the placement of the lighting, so like the shadows don't look correct for that product or that frame.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, just having those ones, or sometimes even they'll have accidentally two light sources because they think, okay, we want the key light to go ahead and face the product, but we want the back part of the product to still be lit. So they take that one, and then now you see almost like a dual shadow look, and that one is not as clean either.
That's okay. I've done
Um,
that. Guilty.
I'm sure
But
we all
I
have,
was
especially at
trying
the
to create.
beginning.
Yeah. No, but I used two harsh lights, both in the same direction, because I wanted to create. I
Oh,
was creating a very artistic look for a whiskey glass, and I wanted two shadows, but they were both in the same
oh,
direction, but they were at
oh.
different heights and different intensities. So I created this, and they were both harsh lights, so no modifiers. And then it did create a cool look, but okay, noted.
I mean, if that's what you're going for, then yeah, because I actually have seen
Right.
some where actually they're pretty cool because like they'll have one shadow going towards the right and another shadow going towards the left. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Mm,
But I'm not too sure if those ones were taken with like a single frame or if they took one and
got
then
it.
they took another one and they just combined the shadows onto there because
Yeah,
the product
yeah.
itself looked like it was still lit from one direction. So
Interesting. Yeah, mine was like long shadow, short shadow in the same
uh,
direction. So it was a different look all in the same frame. But I totally see your point. I feel like you're right. When we create a certain style, we have to go all in. Like
mhm,
literally give that color a boost. Don't be shy. Create that light. Give it that pop. Don't be afraid of contrast. I do,
mm,
however, feel like many times when photographers use harsh light, one of the reasons, in fact, people don't like harsh light is when it's not used correctly. Like harsh light has such a property that it can literally bring out the shadows in a very bold way. And food does not have to look flat. But I don't know if you've noticed this as well. I feel like, many times, especially in flat lays, when people use harsh light, their shadows are in such a way that the food loses its shadow. You can see the shadow of the plate on the backdrop. You can see the shadow of the cup on the backdrop, but inside the food, you just
mhm,
lose all the shadows and the food just begins to look flat. I feel like
mm.
that is just one thing that I feel like people, and that's why a lot of people are like, oh, we don't like harsh light. Yes, of course. But I want to circle back to something you said earlier, and that is about social media. So, when you got into food photography in general, you said that you started posting it on your personal profile, and then later on you turned it into more of a photography feed. So, how much do you think social media played a role in you kind of positioning yourself as an expert? And also, you said that now clients are really looking for this kind of work from you. So, we are always told, right? Create the work you want to be hired for. And it looks like you've kind of done
Mhm.
that. So, tell us about the role of social media, how you've leveraged social media, and how important has it been for you to establish yourself as an expert in the style?
Yeah, so posting on social media, I think, is very important just because it lets people know that you're there. And then it also lets people know what you like doing, what you like creating. It helps establish you as being like, okay, this is the type of work that I create, and this is the type of work that you want to hire me for. And so by sharing those ones, they know that, okay, this person specializes in pop art photography. And I want this product photo to be in that style. So I want to look for those kinds of people as opposed to just like looking for somebody who does dark and moody and asking them, hey, do you also do some of this pop art photography?
Mm-hmm.
Because then it just like it creates more work for them. It's just like, okay, I have to go ahead and create a little conversation with them, talk to them, as opposed to finding the right person right away. It's just like, okay, this person does that. I want to go ahead and work with them. I now just need to find out what are their rates and if they're willing to go ahead and work with me, if they have availability. So it just makes the conversation a little bit quicker, smoother. And then it also prevents other people that, like that aren't going to be fit with your style. So if you
Mm-hmm.
love taking those kind of pop art, bold photography photos, you're not going to get as many people inquiring about some of these light and airy or dark and moody photos that you just hate taking just because you don't have those ones in your portfolio. So by narrowing down like what you have in your portfolio, it also narrows down the type of work that you'll get that you would just spend time just saying no, no things that are not my cup of tea. So I think it's
Mm-hmm.
really important to have that one. And then one thing I also love doing is like in sharing on my social media, like I love sharing like my behind the scenes. So that way they could see the amount of work that goes into the photo or that goes into the video. Because sometimes they don't really fully understand that. They just think like, oh, here's a plate, we'll take a photo and there's that. And then for stop motion, they just see, oh, it's a 5 second clip. That's it. That's 5 seconds done. That shouldn't take 2 days or 3 hours. That's gonna
Yeah.
take 10 seconds. But no, by showing them like a time
Yes.
lapse of like, okay, here's everything that we need to go ahead and set up. So we need to put this here, move this, take a photo, move it again, take a photo. So it kind of allows them to see like, okay, so this is where my money is being invested. It's not just I want you to give me this product. It's like, okay, I could see them spending that time to make these things so they look perfect, so they have the right amount of angle or the right amount of spin to them when they're moving around. And it also helps you or helps your clients gain trust in you just because they see
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, they are just putting the amount of work into this one. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
social media is very important, especially like both Instagram and then if you're trying to reach out to other brands, LinkedIn is a really good one out there.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that you create other styles as well, right? It's not just this one. So how do you balance that out? Because is it just that you post more about this particular style and kind of stands out and people are like, oh, this is so him. But you also sprinkle a little bit about the, photos or videos of the other style that you create. How do you balance that off?
Yeah, so one thing that I do is like I really concentrate more on the bright and bold pop art look, just because I love doing that one. But occasionally I will get customers asking me like, "Oh, hey, can you take these ones with just like a dark and moody or a light and airy?" So I do have those ones in my portfolio as well, but I don't really market them as much. So I don't
Mm-hmm.
really say like, "Oh, hey, here's all this stuff and all these ones." I do want to like yeah, I'm like, kind of hearing myself back, just like, yeah, I should be doing what I said and like finishing down. But I don't know. It's just like I kind of have a hard time letting go of that
Yeah,
stuff. But
yeah.
yeah, I
And
occasionally
it's
do
also,
still have a few things here and there.
yeah, and it's also versatility, right? I mean, we
Yeah.
do cater to a large number of clients, and if we have those skills, then why not? I mean,
Hmm.
you do take on projects which are soft light, a
Hmm.
very different style from the pop art style, correct?
Hmm. Yes, I
Right?
do.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that makes sense. All right. So tell us, how do you feel about like the rate structure or the fee for photos versus videos? As a stop motion creator, do you charge more versus just pop art still photos? How do you see the difference in the rates?
Yeah, so for any kind of video work, I do typically charge more than a photo, just because a photo is, in like simplistic terms, it's just like taking the photo and then there's that. Unlike with like a video or a stop motion, especially, you need to have a lot more planning. You need to create the storyline because it's not just one scene usually. There's going to be one scene to kind of initiate it, to kind of grab the attention, and the next scene is talking more about the product, and then the other scene would be the call to action. So you want to make sure you have these scenes correctly laid out, and then, especially with like stop motion, you need to really plan out where the products are going to move and if these are going to look and be approved by the client. So those ones are going to take a little bit more work. They're going to require a little bit more back and forth between me and the client.
Mhm.
And due to that, there will be a little bit of a higher charge for them.
Hmm. And in terms of difficulty level, would you like, again, soft light versus harsh light, like pop art style versus conventional style? Is one easier than the other? Is one faster than the other to create? Is it more challenging to do the pop art style? Like, which one falls in the more challenging category?
I would say that maybe the harsh light does take a little bit more work just because you want to make sure you have the shadows and the light going at the right angle. And then also the thing is when you have those harsh lightings, if you have a lot of imperfections, it can really show up onto this because it's gonna show like, oh hey, here's a big dent or here's a big shadow and it's creating this undesirable shadow. Unlike with like a soft lighting, it kind of creates a nice soft blend, nice soft look to it, and it can hide a lot of imperfections. So with the harsh lighting, you definitely need to have things a little bit more perfect than you would with a soft lighting.
All right. Okay. So it's a matter of practice, I guess.
Yes,
The
exactly.
more you practice, the better it gets, the easier you can visualize it even before you set it up. Like
Yeah.
like all other styles of photography. Got it.
Exactly.
All right. So, Sean, we've had such a fantastic conversation. I feel like we've talked about the style itself. We've talked about the demand in the market. We've talked about how this whole thing rolled out for you. But tell me, if someone is right now in a position where they're like, "Oh, I just love this style. Oh man, this is all I want to do all my life." But then they're just, sitting and wondering, oh my God, but is this enough? Because we always say that to work with clients, you don't need to know every style of photography. you know you need to know your style really well and then find the clients who want to work with that style, and that's good enough, right? I don't know if you agree with that or not, but
Yeah.
if someone, yeah, okay, all right, cool. So if someone feels really passionately about pop art or this very trending style right now, do you think that they can literally build their entire business around this one style? Do you think there's enough demand? Do you think there are enough clients looking for this? And do you think having and sticking to this one style is a good decision, in the long run for the business?
Yeah. So if there is somebody who's wanting to create the pop art look and have that be their main model for their business, yes, it's definitely doable. I actually know a few people out there who do just focus on just that particular look, and they don't have anything else in their portfolio, and it looks really clean. And it's easy to know, like, okay, this is what they do, this is their style, and that's that. So yes, there are people who've done that one. It can be a really good model just because you're doing that. And then of course, like I mentioned before, it creates a great niche for you. People know you for that particular style, and they know to contact you for that if they're looking for that. In terms of like the competition, I think
Mhm.
there's plenty of brands out there who are willing to go ahead and who want that kind of style. And some brands aren't going to fit the same one photographer for another photographer, because maybe one photographer wants the higher end brands, and then another photographer just loves working with startups. So of course, there's going to be some startups are going to be wanting to work with some people, and yeah, so there's going to be basically a whole bunch of different brands out there, from small to big, from alcohol, which some photographers don't want to do any kind of alcohol stuff, and some photographers love doing alcohol stuff. So there's all these different things, all these different other brands that will reach out to you. So it's just, yeah, you just have to market yourself and keep doing what you're doing,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you'll eventually get somebody out there, and
yeah.
you'll have a successful business with that.
Yeah, I love that. That's very encouraging. I think I'm sure that those who have gotten their hands into something like pop art, they are like feeling very pumped right now. And those who haven't, they're like, what is this? I need to try this. It is so fun. It's so bold. I think whether someone takes it up professionally or not, it's definitely a style that everyone should just explore for their creative satisfaction. It's such a brilliant skill. And definitely, if it can turn into more opportunities of working with clients, then why not? So thank you, Sean, for being here today. This was wonderful. Do you have a call to action for our audience, or maybe you can tell us where they can come and see all your pop artwork?
Yeah, so you can find me over on Instagram at misa.hungry. And then also my website is misahungry.com, and it's MISA and then hungry. And yeah, I don't know if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, DM me. I'd be happy to help you out and answer any questions.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sean, for being here. Thank you for making our conversation bold, quirky, and very in your signature style. Thank you for being here today, Sean.
All right, thank you, Tatima.
So, did you enjoy that popping conversation with Sean? Well, if you've been creating work like that, I hope now you know that it's called pop art. And if it's intrigued you, then definitely go give it a try. You never know, you might fall in love with that style. And if you've been thinking of how to, get more clients, maybe diversify your photography style, then this is it. Food and product photography is definitely a way to diversify, but also within the styles. Pop art could be something that you like, and it could actually open avenues for you to work with more clients and make more money doing what you love. I honestly loved how Sean just made it look easy, but he was also so open in, telling the mistakes that sometimes we can make with pop art, and, maybe the kind of light that we particularly need to pay attention, and how we are sometimes so shy to not add enough contrast in our photos. So whether it's technically learning about the skill or how we can market ourselves as stop motion videographers or as pop art photographers or just as photographers and videographers, he gave us so much good information. I hope you enjoyed the episode. And if you did, you know what to do. Please, please, please do rate and review on the platform that you're listening, especially if you're on Apple Podcasts. Could you just take 2 minutes to write 3 or 4 sentences on why you like the podcast? It'll help me make this podcast bigger and better for you. And of course, if you are exploring pop art and a question pops up in your mind, feel free to email me at hello@myfoodlens.com or DM me on Instagram at Dyutama_myfoodlens. I'll be back next week with another popping episode. Until then, bye-bye.